Greetings, brave adventurers! FoxyBard here to once again regale you with some tales of role-playing. Today, it's going to be all wonder, no woe to be found. Now, we've been covering a lot of negative stories on this channel as of late, and I'd really like to also highlight some of the really good and fun parts of these games. The kinds of stories that you recollect to your friends years later, like, "Remember that time I stopped a war by flirting really hard?" If that sounds like a good time to you, have a seat by the fire with us as we dig into some role-playing glory stories. Our first tale of the day comes from the r/RPG Glory Stories subreddit, posted by the user The Last Holdout and titled, "I Tackle the Hellhound." Spoiler, that's exactly what happens. It's one of those cases where just throwing caution to the wind resulted in an amazing moment for the character involved. Let's dig right in. I've been playing Pathfinder with the same group for a few years now, and recently my best friend, who is part of this group, started a new campaign based on the Hell's Rebels module. For the uninitiated, the idea is you're in a city controlled by devil-worshipping Nazis and you have to start a city-wide rebellion. The very first scene is a protest that turns into a riot, and the goal is to beat up some guards and secret police in the crowd so people can escape, then to peace out yourself. We're all level 1 characters just starting out. No upgrades, no special gear, no nothing. Anyway, my character is a tiefling brawler, fighter/monk hybrid class. He is hot pink, he wears a bush hat, a tattered shirt, and booty shorts. He's the very definition of a himbo. He's also the first character I've ever played who isn't a Dexy face. He's dumb, he isn't skilled, but man, he can pack a wallop, and I'm itching to see what he can do. The cue for everyone to cut and run happens. The captain of the guard, Nox, marches out and unleashes her Hellhound. Hellhounds are apparently CR3 creatures. We're all supposed to run from this thing. It runs up to where I've been absolutely destroying some guards and unleashes its breath weapon, which hits me and kills everyone in front of me. However, the damage wasn't high enough to pass my 5-point energy resistance against fire. At this point, I go, The DM asks me what I want to do. I say, "I'm going to tackle the Hellhound." Full disclosure, we're playing with hero points, which factor into some of the roles I'll describe. I roll to tackle the Hellhound, and I succeed. The DM rolls to have it bite me. Fails. I roll to pin the Hellhound, and I succeed. The DM rolls to bite me. Fails. Then I start punching the Hellhound, doing nearly 10 points of damage each hit. I'm actually winning against this thing, and to my chagrin, I learn later that at this point I could have instantly killed it by using martial flexibility to gain Throat Slicer and coup de grace it. The DM counters by having Nox step up to me and whack me with her sword. She's also much higher level, so she does 10 points of damage, which is exactly my HP. Now that I'm at 0 points, I can choose to try to run away, or do one more action. If I run, I likely can't run faster than the Hellhound or Nox, so I'll die anyway. If I do one more action, I drop into negative hit points immediately. So I roll one more attack, and get a confirmed critical. 20 hit points of damage in one hit. The DM described it as, "You've never heard a Hellhound whimper before." I fell unconscious, but not before reducing the Hellhound to 1 single hit point. I was dragged inside the fortress and captured, but my party elected to rescue me. That'll be a story for another day, of course, but now, wherever I go, NPCs recognize me as the brave idiot who tackled the Hellhound. And this is one of the many reasons why I love himbos. So dumb, so pure, so perfect. Faced with a beast of hell, his only conclusion was to just try to tackle it. And then, by sheer himbo energy, it worked. I love this man and would like to shake his hand. To put on my GM hat for a second, Hellhounds are CR3, that's correct, and their breath weapon does 2d6, so it's entirely possible to just do 5 damage with it. I hope that OP and his party manage to eventually dethrone the demon Nazis and save the city. With a himbo like that at the helm, I have no doubt of their success. Next up, a story that warmed my heart to its core while reading it. It's so unbelievably cute and wholesome. Posted by the user Peaky Pig and called My Son's First Nat 20. I think you can imagine where this is going, and it's exactly as cute as you're hoping. The family that games together is wonderful, and I hope you'll agree. Hi, I want to tell a story of how my son managed to trivialize the boss bugbear Clarg in the Lost Mines of Phandelver over the past weekend. Sorry for it getting a bit long. I was DMing for my wife, son, 8, daughter, 7, and a close friend, and had chosen to do Lost Mines of Phandelver as it's quick to get going, but I figured it would be a way to ease my young children into D&D. My wife played a bard, but due to having to be away at the start of the game, I had her character be with Gundren and Sildar when they got ambushed. My son played a drow rogue, my daughter a tabaxi ranger, with a leopard pet, I tweaked it a bit, and my friend played a gnome/tiefling evocation wizard specializing in fire spells. It started out a bit dicey, as none passed the passive perception at the ambush, and it looked at first like they'd be in trouble as the rogue got hit and lost half his HP. When the surprise round was over, the poor goblins got destroyed in a single round. Very lucky high rolls. The game progressed. They decided that if they show up in town with the cargo and no Gundren, they might not get paid. So they figured they'd look after the missing people, and my daughter had no problem finding the trail to their hideout, or the traps along the way. After ambushing the guarding goblins by turning one into charcoal with burning hands, and having the leopard pounce on the one that made the dex save, they made it inside the cavern. My daughter quickly befriended the chained-up wolves with food and a good roll for animal handling, and discovered a fissure at the back of the kennel. Both my daughter and my son decided to go down the fissure while my friend stayed, as he'd rather just go the other way, but soon followed when I described what they found at the bottom of the fissure. I then had them do a group stealth roll to see if they got discovered, but with both the rogue and ranger having high stealth, they passed without notice. First, my son managed to crossbow bolt the wolf to death without anyone noticing. Then they went for it, having the leopard pounce one of the goblins at the stairs and shooting the other, who got one shot, then sent a firebolt at Clarg. Now combat began for real. My son got highest on initiative, and I asked him what he wanted to do. He tells me that he wants to try something. He wants to shoot the little campfire in the room so the embers fly in Clarg's eyes to blind him. I figured, sure, it's plausible, but he'd need to roll a 20 to be able to do it, and I say as much. He rolls. I don't think I've ever felt so bad for an imaginary monster as I did then. As my friend pipes up, he got a 20! Blinded and without aid, they first make quick work of the pinned-down goblin, then have the leopard pounce Clarg, and then proceeded to pummel him to death as he kept on missing due to the disadvantage caused by being blinded. My son was so proud of that moment, he hasn't stopped talking about it 3 days later. And I couldn't be prouder of my kids. They really got into the game. Even when the dice rolling slowed things down a little and they had to wait for their turn, they can't wait to play again, and neither can I. Oh, that was so cute! I love hearing about kids getting into hobbies like this in the best possible ways, and their ideas going well for them. Is shooting the fire to kick up embers kind of crazy? Yes. Is it also kind of brilliant? Also yes. Good on the OP in the story for not being a stickler about the rules in that way. A good moment like that so early on is going to have a huge benefit to helping the kids enjoy playing D&D. That story had some contextual moments that didn't make a lot of sense if you don't know Lost Mines, but I don't think that lessened the story even a little. And there we go, a needed bit of positivity to intersect all of the particularly nasty stories that have been coming up. I'm not going to abandon the horror stories, but it gets much too depressing around here if we never talk about the good parts too. That will do it for now, though. Make sure you feed the algorithm monster with a like, a subscribe, or a comment. If there's any other kinds of RPG-related content you'd like to see me do a video on, just let me know. You can also check out my Discord server in the description below. We're a community full of nice and welcoming people, and we'd love to have you. But for now, let's douse the fire and get back to our own adventures.